investors get the information first. I love talking to investors. I'm glad that we have the opportunity to do this week after week and to bring you the information that you need to make better investment decisions. Whether you're an investor or you're a vendor or you're an executive, this will be really interesting to you. And I hope that you'll get a lot out of this conversation because, again, investors take news and information seriously. With that, Charles, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Josh. I appreciate it. Always pleasure talking with you as well.
Yeah, I mean, guys, Charles and I talk at least maybe once a week, right? So this conversation is something that's going to be sort of organic. It's really nice to talk to friends on the podcast because, we get to do what we do all the time. And so today, what we want to talk about is what makes an attractive product, and specifically, what makes an attractive story around a product. So today, the market is incredibly crowded, especially in security with AI and everything that's around the corner. And everyone is trying to sell their solution. So, CISOs, decision makers, executives are overloaded with information. And so they have to make a split-second decision. And what we have found is that it's kind of a hack, isn't it? Is to storify your product. And everybody's talking about stories these days. Stories are impactful, they're powerful. And to build a story around a product is really the way that vendors or founders and startups are going about making their products more attractive. So, Charles, what do you listen for in the first minute of an investor, or I guess more specifically, a founder, a CEO, someone who's pitching their product? What elements are you looking for in their story in that first minute that you're listening to them?
Everyone says the wow factor, but let me really clarify that. I'm looking for something that's unique, something that could be disruptive, or something I've not already seen 10 times before. So I'm looking for, in truth and holistically, something that's brand new to the industry, or something that's a new take on something that already exists that's not already been done before. I mean, obviously, we don't really want to reinvent the wheel. We realize that a circle is a perfect way, a sphere is a great way to run. So we don't want square tires. We want round tires, but we want to make some type of improvement. So did you improve the tread? Did you improve some type of other wear, other type of material? What did you really do? So you take that into technology, you take that into investing and holistically. Did you invent something new? Did you invent a new product category? Or did you reinvent, or did you make something better, or make an improvement to something that already exists? And that's what I'm looking for. Something that's patentable, something that has IP, something that's investable.
Mm-hmm. So you're not looking for a whole lot of fluff and window dressing. You're looking, essentially, if I'm hearing you correctly, at the fundamentals, right? So nothing that is, and people use the term all the time, they want a product that's sexy. So, things that are attractive and sexy might not necessarily be a good investment. It might be a lot of hype. So it sounds like you're looking for some of the underlying elements that provide value rather than, a lot of the buzzwords that we hear coming out of startups today.
Absolutely, because if the startup already has all the buzzwords, every time I hear a buzzword, depending on what it is, or if it's fancy, if it's got a lot of fluff to it, all I see is expensive. And then that means I might have missed the opportunity for me to invest in something that I'm already looking at doing. But if I see something that gives me the basics, that gives me the foundational point to make my own determination, if I have the opportunity to reevaluate something, purely from the investment aspect of it, or the assessment or the evaluation aspect of it, it's like, okay, am I getting in at the right time? Am I too early, or am I too late, or where am I at in that process? And then that's a really big, important determination in how we invest and what we buy into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it depends. The fluff is more along the lines of just trying to make it sound more expensive, and that might not be necessarily what's beneficial for investors. That might be at the wrong stage, or the wrong place, or the wrong time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what you're saying is that for investors who are listening to this, and so they're poised and ready to look at a new product, by the time the product is buzzworded to death, then it might be inflated at that point, because that's what the buzzwords exist to do. They really exist to boost the valuation. As soon as you say AI, things do get more expensive. But if you've got this little company that's, out of Germany, it's 2 or 3 people, and they've got a really good product, they have to describe exactly what it does. Like you said, it's got round wheels, not square wheels. It's got to be simple. It's got to be something that is scalable before you start talking about the buzzwords. And you're saying that if you're an investor and you find those products and those solutions that are depending, literally their message has to depend on the fundamentals, then at that point the chances are you're probably getting in at the ground level. Is that true?
That's the way I feel. Like if I look at someone and someone's telling me that they're using all this AI and artificial intelligence and stuff like that, either one of a few things are happening. Either they're lying to me, which is probably because very few companies, there's only 2 in the world that I know of that are public that have actual artificial intelligence. A lot of them are using Gen AI and ChatGPT, which is not artificial intelligence. So if they start telling me that, oh, we're using AI and we're doing this, that, and the other thing, it's either they're not smart enough to know the difference or they're lying to me purposefully. But either one of those two situations does not make it investable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then that's where we get that crossroad. That's where you don't want to go hit me with a whole bunch of buzzwords because you might not understand what those buzzwords mean.
Right, right. Yeah. And maybe they've kind of cracked the code on what buzzwords causes people to open up their wallets, and so by the time they figure that out, as an investor coming in, you're already crowded out.
Sure, it's like if you do and if you use modeling and stuff like that. In fact, I advise startups now that I'm part of, and the ones that we've got invested interest in. It's like I tell them, I'm like, look, if you use machine learning and you use modeling and stuff like that, perfect. Say you use modeling, say you do this, that, and the other thing. This is how your model learns. But don't call it AI. Don't call it anything fancy. Don't get stuck in the hype of the buzzwords
Mm-hmm.
because the actual
Mm-hmm.
CISOs and the CEOs and the folks that actually buy that stuff are
Mm-hmm.
going to think that you're lying to them or that you just don't know what you're doing. In
Mm-hmm.
either one of those
Mm-hmm.
cases, you're not going to close the deal. Yeah, you might fit in with the industry, but you're going to lose out as a whole. And going back to looking at what they did at RSA, every sign that had RSA on it, almost I don't know what percentage of RSA had the word AI in the banners on the showroom floor. I lost count after it was different. Everybody predominantly holistically was saying AI this and AI that. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's just lying to me, or they've got some form of marketing defect.
Right, right. Yeah. If you ask most salespeople these days, business development reps, account executives, CEOs to an extent, what makes your product attractive? I think in their minds, they may say, AI makes it attractive. Zero trust makes it attractive. These things are buzzwords. So what you're saying is what makes it attractive is just the fundamentals. So let's talk a little bit about the fundamentals, right? If someone says what makes my product attractive is that it has AI, okay, we've already tuned them out. So what would a good product look like to you in terms of the fundamentals? You mentioned a few elements at the beginning of the show. Let's expand that a little bit. What are some of the fundamental elements that make a product attractive?
What make a product probably more so investable for me is the fact that if you're able to quickly and concisely in three separate phrases explain to me what your product does. If you talk to me about zero trust, and again, I've got great friends that work at Zscaler. If like you ask me what Zscaler does, it does 3 things really well. It does content filtering, malware defense, and DLP. Bam, done. 15 seconds. This is what we do. This is how we do it. Is this interesting to you? Yes or no?